Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Kevin Gallagher. Kevin, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, my man. It's been a good weekend. It's been a
Oh,
fun
yeah?
fun little weekend, man. We had a lot of cool things happen. What's going on, brother?
I'm,
You doing good?
I am currently, well, one, it's Lent.
Right,
So,
right.
today's a bit of a fasting day. I got
hmm
to get ready for giving up stuff for a while. And,
Yeah.
it's just not great. Also, I got a competition on Sunday.
We spoke.
So
We spoke of this
we
prior.
spoke of this. We did a lot of pre-show conversation for
we
this
did.
time.
We did. We're
Also,
all like juiced up now. We're all juiced
yeah,
out now.
and
We got nothing
also
left.
just a heads up, we might have a very special guest joining us later on in the episode, should
Right.
schedules permit. But if not, there's a ton to talk about. First up, we got the Wilder Fury fight. That's not really jiu-jitsu, but it's such a big combat sports
Correct.
event. It really felt
It
like
carries over.
this was like these last few years, boxing has had a resurgence in the mainstream. Like you've got not only Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, you've got AJ and Andy Ruiz. Two different like competitions going back to back, and everyone's wondering who's going to fight who. And
It's super cool to not just see the resurgence of boxing in general, but the resurgence because boxing it kind of had a little bit of a small resurgence when Mayweather was fighting, and there's still some lines of lifelines floating around out there with Canelo because he's still got some pretty big fights, and a couple international fighters like what's the guy's name, Triple G, and then
yeah.
oh geez, the left-handed guy. It's gonna make me crazy because
Oh yeah. Oh, left-handed. You're thinking of Conor McGregor, famous
no,
boxer.
yeah, no, it's gonna make me nuts. I can't remember his name, but anyway. But the real cool part of it is it's at the heavyweight division because I'm an old boxing fan and I came up watching boxing. I used to box for a long time. It was actually my first martial art. Wrestling was first, but whatever, you get the general idea. And I grew up watching boxing, big time fights, and the heavyweight division was always like the baddest man alive was the heavyweight champion of the world, and there was like a certain aura that rang around that it was a really really like big deal. So to start to see guys in the heavyweight division garner attention and actually put on entertaining fights again, is really a cool thing to see. And like right now, we've got some really good freaking boxing going on at the heavyweight division, like 3 or 4 really good dudes. Like Danny Ruiz is like in that conversation, but you've also got three probably of the best heavyweights of the last generation or so that are all fighting each other.
It feels exciting, especially as a guy that, I remember when there was there was a lot of like animosity between MMA and boxing. And it seems like that is fully gone, like everyone's just enjoying, all
But
these fights.
if anything, I would guarantee you that some arrogant boxers are now starting to trend towards the like, oh wow, maybe I don't really know as much as I do. I don't want to mess with them MMA guys.
Although if I'm just going to put out a plea here and I might get a lot of flack for it. Could all professional MMA fighters stop jockeying to fight heavyweight boxers and boxing rings? Stipe, I love you. OH, love it. Huge fan. You're not going to fight Tyson. Please just stop.
I think a 50-year-old Mike Tyson, or however old he is, 55.
Or sorry,
Tyson
Fury.
Stipe Miocic in a freaking.
I thought you meant
Mike Tyson.
No. He called out Tyson Fury in a tweet saying,
"Well,
like,
I still hold that I think a 55-year-old Mike Tyson beats Stipe in a boxing match." Stipe Miocic.
You got the oh man,
yeah, combined to
Joey Diaz, immigrant mentality. Stipe it planted the seed.
But it was a fun fight. I didn't get to see the whole fight. I watched. I was working that night, and a customer at the bar had a link, and I started watching it. I watched the beginning of the very last round, so I saw Wilder get knocked out. And he looked like a broken man. And so, I mean, I was at work and I couldn't really watch the fight because I couldn't have a stream of it. But I was reading the kind of round by round synopsis that they'll put up on like Bleacher Report or ESPN or something like that. And every round was like, Wilder looks hurt. Wilder doesn't look right. freaking Tyson Fury dominates. And then in the last round when I turned it on, it looked just like what the writers were. And I couldn't believe it reading it. I thought, oh, they're just being biased. But when I turned it on, I was like, whoa. It was really weird to see what has until that point been the indomitable beast that the Deontay Wilder is look like that too. It was really an odd thing.
Now, I got something to ask you really quick. Just as a the prevailing thing I'm seeing all the talking heads say is like, oh, this shows that he doesn't know how to box. You know, like Deontay never knew how to box. He had like two things, like had the right hand. As a guy who's more into who's been into boxing for a while, like how do you
I have one answer to that, and the answer is this. So you're trying to say that all 44 of the other heavyweight men that are world-renowned heavyweight fighters that were knocked out by those two things that Deontay Wilder had didn't know how to box is what the conclusion of that is. And the answer to that is no. What we have is someone that's probably one of the best pure boxers in the history of the heavyweight division, which is Tyson Fury, which beat an indomitable human being, which has been Deontay Wilder up to this point, because he's that good. You follow what I'm saying? So
no, I do, yeah.
Okay, Deontay Wilder might not be a boxer. You're right, he's not. But you know what he has? Like absolute death touches in both hands. So who cares that he can't box? Because it seems to be working because he knocked out 44 people in a row. So the 44 people in a row weren't dudes at bars. They were world-class heavyweight fighters.
Boxing records as a whole kind of weird me out. It's like in MMA, you're used to seeing like 20 and like 7 or 8, you know, but like right. in boxing that the losses are in like the higher divisions are so small.
Right. Yeah. You don't, there's no such thing. Yeah. There's no such thing particularly. Well, maybe not so much. Like it depends on how viable of a fighter you're having, how many times you come back up again. But like, you don't see a whole lot of guys with like 20, 25 losses that end up getting titles, because what happens is now you're no longer the prime boxer, you're fodder. Like when you become that middle of the road kind of like journeyman fighter after you have a couple losses, 5-10 losses, something like that. Now you start to become that tough guy that's never really going to make it to the next level, but they can use you when they have someone that's a superstar coming up, and being able to pad your record and have someone looking out for you, being the rising star instead of the guy in the bottom trying to make it, makes things a whole lot easier for you.
All right. Now, I'd love to continue this boxing discussion on this Jiu-Jitsu podcast, but it turns out our special guest that I hinted to earlier is now ready to go, so I'm going to bring him in. Kyle,
hey, what's up,
man?
Uh-oh.
Oh, we can't hear him. Oh, that means I'm going to have to do some editing, but that's fine.
That's
Kyle,
fine.
Can you hear us? Are you? You can hear. Okay. Do you have we can't really hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's do you have any headphones or
I don't.
There it is. Hold on, wait, that's what we asked.
Fine.
Whatever you did, you were covering the microphone or something like that.
Hello?
That's better. That's
perfect.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
You had your hand on the freaking on the thing or something like that. Cool.
Okay.
Maybe that if you turn your phone long ways though. Yeah, it's a better picture.
That's better?
Yeah, that's cool. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Good enough.
All right, I'm gonna drop you in a little bit. I don't know how we're gonna slice this together, but ladies and gentlemen, infiltrating the stream and continuing our string of high-level 10th Planet guests, Nate Orchard last week. We have BJJ Fanatics Grand Prix champion, and more recently, Submission Underground Tag Team champion alongside Vinny Magalesh, Kyle Boehm. Kyle, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good, brother.
I'm a little tired, and I'm noticing that I'm losing my hair, but otherwise, I'm pretty good. So
I had a lot of training this week. I'm not too happy about that. I'll be all right, man. I'll move on with it.
Okay. So just going right into it, you're coming off of this huge win. Overall, Submission Underground was run by 10th Planet this time around. You had you and Vinny, and then Boogie beating Jake Shields. How do you feel, man?
I feel good. I'm definitely happy that Boogie was able to get that arm lock in overtime. That was awesome. And, obviously we're happy we got the win. I know it wasn't the most entertaining match in the world, but, we went in with the strategy and implemented it. So I can't be too mad about that.
I wanted to briefly go over some of the things that people were mad about, and I wanted to know how you and Vinny prepared for it. You showed that text message that between you and Vinny where he was saying that you guys were being underestimated going in. You had more experience with this rule set. What kind of prep did you do for Nick, and even though it didn't come to it, for Craig?
We didn't actually get the chance to train together, Vinny and I, for the actual tag team part of it. So we didn't get really any preparation for this tag team style rule set at all, but just working on, I knew I was going to be the overtime guy and that Vinny was going to be in for the majority of the regulation period, just because we wanted to keep our overtime contestant fresh. And we knew nobody's going to sub Vinny in regulation. So
yeah, I read your Instagram post, and it pretty much made sense. I didn't realize it had been that long since he's been submitted in regulation. Yeah. But like Vinny Magalhaes is literally, he's like the Dean Lister of our generation. Like you just don't submit him. He's ridiculous.
For sure.
So I mean, in that regard, it was a great strategy because you put Vinny out there, tire them both out. I would have liked to seen Craig Jones at least fire something. It's just from the pure joy of jiu-jitsu aspect of it. I would like to see Craig Jones throw some stuff up at him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the match was billed as Craig and Vinny because they had never competed with one another. So I mean, I knew everybody wanted to see that, but I bet that match is going to happen eventually. So
yeah, they'll figure out a way to get that work. It's funny because I laugh about it all the time because literally every freaking jiu-jitsu tournament like in the world today, it's got Craig Jones on it. Yeah, every jiu-jitsu tournament poster I see, every jiu-jitsu match poster I see, like starring Craig Jones.
Oh yeah.
I think your name's going to be up there here pretty soon with the big wins you've been having, kid. You've been on a tear lately, man. That I personally feel like your win in the BJJ Fanatics Grand Prix was even more impressive than the submission underground, man. It made me a believer. You know what I mean? And not to say that I'm not a believer. I just, whatever. You're that dude. You know what I'm talking about? I don't mean that, but it's like when you go out and you go against the quality and the caliber of competitor that was in that matchup and you come up with the win that you have, like in my mind, it isolated you as, wow, this is someone that's a very legitimate grappler, simply because it doesn't matter what you say. I'm a very like show me kind of guy. And that showed me what you were about.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah. And that's the way people should be, I think. You got to have proof.
Right. I think we were just talking about this a little bit off air before you came on about how 10th Planet is starting to become, I mean, not necessarily that it wasn't ever legitimate, but in the eyes of maybe even the non-believers, the more traditional jiu-jitsu guys, I don't think that even those guys at this point think that 10th Planet is not a legitimate organized team to go out and compete at any level in any type of rules format to be reckoned with. I think there was a time when it was like, oh, what's going on? And the reason I say that is simply the same reason, because you are where you're at now. It's because you guys go out and win. You show me. There's nothing left to discuss. If you win, then nobody can say anything about it anymore. So
yeah, for sure. I think in particular the way John Blank competed at Abu Dhabi, I think that was a real that was a good proof right there that Ted Plant do the points style as well. I mean, he took 4th place, did excellent. So
I forget about him too. I was like, I'm thinking, John Blank too. That was a seminal moment. I mean, him submitting Rosamar was like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Yeah,
for sure. And I think our trend is always a steady upward trend. We're not going backwards. It seems like we're only getting better over time. So hopefully that legitimacy, even in the biggest doubters' minds, will get erased.
Now, real quick, just going back to the tag team match. I know you had a lot of online beef with some of the DDS guys leading up to it, and Nikki, and Nikki's a friend of the show, but his whole a lot of his persona is built around being this big dude. And I gotta say, when I actually saw you two next to each other, like you make him look like a small regular person. Like your lats alone make you look like you're about to take flight. It's kind of ridiculous. How did seeing him live, seeing him roll against Vinny, what were your thoughts on his game?
He seemed like he didn't really want to engage and was kind of avoiding the toe line so Vinny couldn't get grips. And it just didn't seem like the best strategy because he just hasn't been doing jiu-jitsu that long. So for him to go sub only against Vinny, it just didn't make a lot of sense to us. Because, you know, like I said, I don't see anybody subbing Vinny. But Craig Jones, who's been doing jiu-jitsu far longer, at least to me, would have a shot. So I don't know. I felt like Craig should have called him over and be like, "Hey, tag me in," you know. But
yeah, Nick has a decent submission game, but it's based off of his constant pressure. He'll get to the back off of a guard pass because someone will turtle and he's quick to hop up on it, or her force, a slam into the back take. A lot of what he does comes off of the back take, but he's also just freakishly athletic and has enough knowledge to understand that arm, grab, rip, lock leg together. You know what I mean? And when you're that athletically gifted, you can get away with things like that. But I also agree with you that I love Nick because Nick is my dog. He is my dog. I was a little bit like, wow, I didn't see that coming for him to be in the tag team match like that in a sub only match. But like I say this about Nick, just like I said before, that kid is a gamer, and you give him a rule set, he's going to figure out a way to win it. I also feel like Vinny is a difficult matchup for Nicky in a sub only match simply because, Vinny is so game. He has such a tough guard to pass, and he's going to, particularly when he knows that points on a premium, he doesn't really care, and he can play a little bit more passive.
Yeah, just about Nick. I mean, the fact that his guard passing is already being effective against the highest level competitors in the world, and he's only been training for 2 years is remarkable.
Right.
Guard passing usually is the last skill that comes along. So the fact that he's already developed it at the highest level this early is super impressive.
Right. What are so speaking, let's talk about you for a little bit, man. Fuck that Nick Rodriguez. I shouldn't curse. I love Nick.
Kyle, what's your go-to power breakfast, man? Let's go into it.
I would go with eggs, sausage, bagels, just lots of carbs and protein.
You probably crush some calories. What do you walk around? Are you about 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, 6'4". I'm usually like
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Do you come from an athletic background prior to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Like my whole life I played sports. I was 3-sport athlete high school, 5-sport athlete junior high, played rugby in college, rock climbed my whole life. So I've always
you're a very pretty athlete guy. So you have a decent athletic background. I'm asking you because you kind of moved up the jiu-jitsu ladder and accelerated pace. Like you've only been training for about 3-4 years yourself, right?
Yeah, it's 5 now, but one of those I was out after surgery, so really mat time more like 4.
Yeah. Where's your home gym at? What do you train primarily out of?
Oceanside, California.
Oh, is that PJ Barch and your Geo school, right?
That's Geo's, yeah. So they've got the 10th Planet Freaks, which is comprised of 4 schools in the San Diego area. We've got Geo, which is Oceanside, PJ, which is Spring Valley, Kevin Burbrick, which is Poway, and then Boogie down in San Diego.
Yeah, cool. I've been to Boogie's place in San Diego a couple times, man. Boogie's awesome, and that gym is impressive, dude. Yes, I'm always amazed at how many students he has. I'm like, geez, I look at him and I'm like, man, fuck you, dude. Like I'm counting numbers and I'm like, all right, look at this son of a bitch. But I don't mean that. I'm happy for him, and I say this a lot. What's up?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The thing that I always talk about when I talk about the Plant City or the 10th Planet guys is that there's something about the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu system that is so welcoming and community oriented that it leads to big schools, because there's like a huge family. Like every time I've gone to boogie school, I was amazed, because you see that at other jiu-jitsu academies, the fraternal nature of it all. But like, it really seems to me that there's an authenticity to what's going on when you go to the 10th Planet academies. Maybe it's because the way the gyms are run, or maybe because of Eddie Bravo, but it's very, very, very welcoming and very conducive to big gyms, because people love that. That's what keeps your people coming back.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely authentic. I mean, Boogie and Gio treated me like family from day one. They're like that with everybody. They're just some of the nicest guys. So it's definitely real.
Man, that's cool.
If I wanted to just interject for a second, how did you find jiu-jitsu? You're saying you have this athleticism coming off of rugby in college and like rock climbing your whole life. What led you to jiu-jitsu? And then specifically, if there's a different story, 10th Planet.
One of my roommates back in college was taking a class with a boxer. And I had said I had always wanted to box. We did a little bit of backyard boxing in high school, but nothing really formal. So I started doing training with him, and one thing led to another, and took a amateur MMA fight, and things just kind of took off from there.
That's cool. So did you start with 10th Planet before your MMA, or did you do MMA before 10th Planet?
I did MMA before 10th Planet.
And then you got involved with a 10th Planet crew after that.
Yeah. I wrestled for a couple of years just in junior high, so I had like a double leg.
Right. And you're a fucking freak athlete, so you figure once you grab somebody, if you know any kind of basics of a double leg takedown, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, at the amateur level, you're gonna be just fine. So
yeah, that's cool. And then is that what prompted you to go follow up and do 10th Planet?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Why did you give up on MMA? You just over getting punched in the face, or what?
I'm making my pro debut sometime next year.
Oh, cool, man.
I started really falling in love with it, and I was like, since I was already pretty late getting into it, I kind of just focused just on jiu-jitsu for a few years.
Right.
But MMA's always been the plan.
Oh, cool, man. Awesome.
What
do you fight? 205?
Probably start there and then move down to 185 eventually.
All right, cool. Man.
Wow, 6'4", 185. Dude, that's monstrous. How dare you? How dare you, Kyle? Leave those regular size guys alone. Give them a shot. What do you have a promotion picked out? Like how set in stone is this?
I know a few of the people from World Series of Fighting, but I think probably I'll start out local, smaller shows for the first 2 or 3 fights, get a few wins together before I start looking at anything bigger.
Yeah, man. Start building that name up in the jiu-jitsu circuit like that. The jiu-jitsu circuit is not a laughable thing anymore in the eyes of like legitimate fighting organizations. It's definitely a platform, and it definitely does 2 things. It makes them realize that you're a true fighter, and it also makes you marketable because they know that eyes are going to be on you to come watch. So take advantage of everything you got to offer, kid. Use that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Go out and you got any other big matches planned up? Anything else coming up in the future?
Yeah, we've got Subversive 3 is coming up on April 4th. So that's going to be 10th Planet against Fight Sports. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah, Wagner will be their 165 pounder, and we're not sure who else they've got, but I mean Fight Sports, so it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, I'm sure Cyborg will probably be in on it. I'm sure he's competing a lot lately. I don't know. Subversive. I don't know if he'll freaking come out. He ain't coming out to fight for free. He needs to get 40, 50 grand to get out of bed anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but Tex possibly could be back in there.
Right.
And, I know they've got Patrick Gaudio as well. He could be in there, so who knows? But I'm sure they'll have a very game team.
Did you see Tex's match with Gordon this weekend at the Substars?
I just I didn't see the full match. I just saw the finish arm triangle. That's all I was able to see.
Yeah, I was there Matt's side. It was a good match, man.
Someone pulled the fire alarm.
Yeah, right.
I did see that.
Yeah.
That was very smart having the Tex had one of his buddies pull the fire alarm.
Right, exactly. Oh shit, this ain't going to what I wanted to do. Move to plan B. Like they had like
he very clearly signaled. He signaled the guy.
The Eagle has landed. Operation Torque. That's funny, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Texas. That was a decent enough match. That was a really fun card, man. I was really impressed. I don't know what the folks at home saw. I was there coaching Dan Martinez, so I had a pretty good seat up on the stage to watch it all. But like, from what I saw, it was pretty entertaining. Like they did a pretty good job from everything, from the venue to the match that making. They had some little weird sumo thing that was going on. It took a little bit too long,
and
but it was cool.
I gotta stop you right there,
Yeah.
just because as much as I loved the idea of the sumo wrestling match, they got perhaps the worst public speaker I've ever seen in my. It gave me anxiety.
He went way too long.
I wanted to throw him into the ocean.
Yeah.
Like
that whole thing should have been done in 25, 30 minutes. It should have been done before it started. He turned it into a whole, because it was kind of what I found out afterwards is they were trying to bring exposure to USA Sumo, which I had no idea that was a thing. Kyle, you ever heard of USA Sumo before?
No,
yeah.
I have not.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has. I'm pretty sure he made it up, but apparently it's a thing. And he was out trying to promote for that. And they had this big crossover where they flew in these real legit sumo wrestlers from Japan. And right, sumo wrestlers from Japan, they're revered as like super athletes. They're like superheroes walking down the street.
For sure.
And they brought it over and they did a whole sumo.
They had Rumble Johnson and Curtis Blaze.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they and it was a very listen, I'm a sort of sumo fan. Like I have some experience with it. It's very interesting if it's done right, and there's a lot of respect to be had. Like these guys have a lot of really solid grappling techniques, and they're athletes. And I just I felt so bad for them that this idiot was just
he
ruining it.
He made it that whole thing should have been done in 25 minutes. It took almost an hour, and it was just like, what the fuck? You wanted to come on, dude. Like, I wanted to help him out and get up there and be like, hey, dude, tell a joke or something like that. Let's move it along.
Too much talking. And not
well, it was. He spent a lot of time.
Saying, all right, guys, we got to cheer for these guys.
Right.
They're doing the warm-ups. We got to cheer.
The first 20 minutes of it was literally just him talking about USA Sumo and showing the rules with these two sumo guys giving demonstrations and stuff, and it just took forever. And then Rumble Johnson is a cool dude, but he kept hamming it up. And every single time he got up, he was he had the little diaper on. He made the joke how his junk was going to fall out of the diaper. You know what I'm talking about? And it might have been legit, but every single time he kept doing it. And
it looked I think he genuinely had problems with the outfit. He looked uncomfortable in it. But what I want to so suffice it to say, the only thing that'll get me to care about USA Sumo is if their next match is Kyle Boehm, Kevin Gallagher, sumo super fight, sumo with gi tops. So it's submission sumo. We just completely run away with it.
You're a big
That's
motherfucker.
Not fair, man. I'm terrible in the gi. I've got 3 weeks of gi experience. I'll get my ass kicked.
Oh man,
that's cool.
Now, specifically with Substars, Gordon was the big talk of the night, and I know you and him have had history. You've trained together before, back when he was a much normal-sized man instead of the dude that he is now. Is there a fight on the horizon for that, or I know he's dangled
May 23rd. Third Coast and Grapple Fest are putting together a USA/UK event. It's going to take place in Liverpool on May 23rd, and Gordon and I will be doing a no time limit match.
Oh, dope, man. Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see that. That'll be fun, dude. That'll be fun, man. Yeah, I think you guys match up well together. I think you can match him in just sheer size and length. It's going to be a new conundrum he's going to have to try to figure out. It's an interesting match for sure, man.
Plus, you're not insane like Tex is, so you got that going for you.
I love Tex. He's
I know.
He's
we like to. He's man. Just a bit. He's a bit nutty.
He's off the charts a little bit. He kind of has that look where he'll just say something and kind of just look at you and look at you to figure out how you're thinking about it. And you're just hey, dude, it's me, Tex. It's me, bro.
You gotta have you gotta have a in your back pocket. You gotta have a tenderloin, or a 3-pound steak to throw at him, so he goes and chases it, and then
a
you can
6-pack of beer or something like that to keep his mind off things. So where Go ahead. Where
Yeah,
you training at primarily now? You're Oceanside most of the time?
That's correct. Yeah, 10th Planet Oceanside. I'm teaching there as well, 6 a.m. class. So I'm there all the time.
Who are some of your big training partners did you work with? When you're training for an event, do you keep it within the 10th Planet family, or do you try to go out and outsource opponents and things for other people for you to try to train with?
I do both. My main training partners, Gio Martinez, Kyle Chambers, Kevin Burbrick, Ricky Lule. We've got like 5 or 6 really good black belts out there at 10th Planet Oceanside that I've been training with. But then I'll also go out to Vegas. I'll get training with Vinny sometimes. Sometimes I go up to San Jose to Cayos and get training with Yuri and Benji Silva, Ryan Walsh. So I try to get around so I get different looks, not just getting the 10th Planet sub-only style, but also getting the point style. I was training out at Sala Hiberos with Victor Hugo the other night, so that was awesome. He's cool, incredible. Man. So, yeah, I'll definitely try to get outsourced and get different looks as well.
That's awesome, man. That's cool that you get. I say that all the time, man. I think that, you know, there are outliers that can get better training on their own and not going out and actively looking for training partners. But I feel like one of the main ways to truly get better at competition, and the only way is really do it at some points is to go out and actively search for guys that are in the same world as you are. It's guys that will push you, guys that are dominating, guys that are better than you or not as good as you or very damn close to it, size, strength, ability, and you get them people together and you kick each other's ass every day, and eventually the whole team grows. You know, iron sharpens iron. So it's cool that you're going out looking for other things, because again too, it's cool that you're getting different looks from different people. You know, that's the important piece too.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's super important to go out and get in with those other world-class guys. And you know, I always learn so much after competing. So if I go and I train with somebody like Victor or Vinny, then I'm just going to learn a ton that I wouldn't have necessarily learned just staying at home.
Right.
With, you know, yeah.
A quick question, because I love Gio. I really think that Gio Martinez is probably the best pure submission only grappler on the planet. I think Gary's up there close to it too. But when I think about them two and the jiu-jitsu that they implement, I just think wizardry. Like it's really from someone that really loves and appreciates jiu-jitsu and knows the game. Like I watched them two when they compete, and I'm just utterly amazed at the way they're able to string things together and the dynamic thought process that goes from one to the next to the next. What is it like for you when you train with Gio, particularly because you're so much bigger than he is? Is he still every bit as good?
Yeah, Gio's definitely one of my toughest roles, even being, you know, someone who competes all the way down at 135 sometimes, just because he's so freakishly strong, and because of his background, and you know, he's got the breakdancing background, gymnastic style background. He's incredibly strong, so it's really difficult to deal with because he's like got the strength of a 200-pound guy, but he's 135.
Right.
So he's always one of my toughest roles. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I think if you took just no time limit, I don't think anybody is going to beat Gio pound for pound.
No, he's ridiculous. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, I really enjoy watching him.
He's like, I also just like hearing him talk about jiu-jitsu, you know, just because I feel like he'd find a way to do this if there was absolutely zero money in it. Like he's got that Zen quality to him. Back to what you were saying about going out and finding different avenues for learning. You know, you're making your MMA debut. How's the striking training going? Like, who are you working with on that? You know, because 10th Planet's got a few pretty famous MMA fighters. You know.
Yeah, so we've got Maya at our gym, who's a strawweight female MMA fighter, and she teaches the striking classes that I've been taking right now. I'll take them a few times a week. And then obviously Liz Carmouche is there as well. So the SoCal area, we're more known as having high-level women's fighters, but just in terms of learning and taking the classes, that still benefits me a lot.
Yeah, man, that SoCal area is it's such a hotbed for jiu-jitsu and MMA right now. It's just insane. I mean, it's one of the landing spots from Brazil that most of jiu-jitsu came to was Southern California. Obviously, Torrance was the was the first Gracie Academy. It's funny because the Brazilians, they moved to America and they basically wanted to move to America, but make sure they were still moving to places that are just like Brazil. Like they went to New York because there's money there, but like the majority were like, okay, let's go to Southern Florida or let's go to California. And we're just going to call that home because then we can go surfing still.
Yeah.
But I had a couple other questions for you. This is something that I'm always curious about because along the same frame of reference when we talk about like going to train with other people and getting other looks and stuff like that. Do you find that when you go up against other people that you don't necessarily train with all the time, like you say you train at the same training partners all the time, that your go-to moves that are your bread and butter things that sometimes you kind of think aren't working as well because you're throwing him up on the same guy every day and he obviously knows what you're going to do and knows your setups and other things. Do you find that when you go compete or when you go train with someone else that isn't necessarily as familiar with your game, that all of a sudden your go-to moves are more effective and the things you're known for tend to come out more on top?
100%. Yeah. People get your A game down and then they start figuring out the little adjustments that they've got to make to negate that. And, those are the people that you're training with every single day. So for sure, I would agree with that. You get somebody that you've never rolled with and you've never thrown your A game at, and they're just not going to have the same amount of repetition defending it. So I think it'll be more effective.
Yeah, that's what I always think of when I think of like reasons to go cross train. And one of them is because all of a sudden you believe in your game again, as much as it's about getting different looks from other people so that other people now, you're accustomed to seeing guys, maybe this guy plays De La Riva or, people at your gym don't play a lot of De La Riva. This guy goes for this arm, blah, 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 this and that. You're getting different looks from other people, but you also come to the point to where you become reassured that the things that you have isolated as parts of your game that are quintessential pieces of your game are still extremely effective because I can go against someone that doesn't roll me all the time and they work just as well as they're supposed to work. Or I can go into a competition. It's like, wow, that over-under pass that I tried for 1,000,000 times against the same guy didn't really work, but it worked 4 times against a dude that's probably better than the dude at the gym I roll with, but just isn't as aware of my game.
Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense. It's just all about repetition. Yeah,
exactly. Well, cool, man. Like, I don't know, Kev. What do you think? You got anything else you want to talk about?
I just it was funny. I always look like such an idiot because I go to point to you, but I'm pointing to nothing.
I do the same thing. Yeah,
and I feel like a dumb dick, like I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy.
Sorry,
all right,
we love you, brother.
You were saying that it reminded me. Come on. I'm gonna outlive you, Kevin. That's gonna be fun.
That's a good point.
But my coach Chris a few days ago was talking about having a home base, and like that's where like when shit hits the fan, where you revert to, and it's typically like it could be in MMA if like you came into it. I think BJ Penn originally said it, like it's good to come in from a different discipline because that's what you revert to when things are going bad. If you're a Muay Thai guy, don't try to be a Jiu-Jitsu guy, just straight up be a Muay Thai guy. If you're a Jiu-Jitsu guy, go to where you're comfortable. I was talking with my coach and he says that could be applied to Jiu-Jitsu. There's positions, there's ideas that represent your comfort zone and your home and where you feel that you can do the best work. Do you think you'd have any way of describing what that feels like for you in Jiu-Jitsu? Like in the system, where does Kyle get his best work done in Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, I would say my home is definitely still the open guard at this point. The last year or so, I've really been focused a lot more on closed guard and getting to closed guard from open guard situations. But
are you talking about a half guard or a full guard? I'm just curious.
With open guard, just
no. When you close your guard up.
Oh, full guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I interrupted you. I apologize.
Yeah. So I've been getting more to that full guard, but my open guard is still what I would consider my home. So if the shit's hitting the fan, I would definitely revert back to open guard.
Why do you like playing open guard? Is it because the transitions are more dynamic and you learn to capitalize on those?
I'm not sure why I started playing it the most, to be honest. It just kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
But it's just the one that I've done the most. I think just because getting to closed guard situations or full guard situations isn't always the easiest thing. Guys bring their knee up to their elbow and then you can't get to it. So you just end up being in open guard more often, I would say, unless you're intentionally stopping and starting in full guard and going live from there, which I've been doing more of now. But just the way I started, it was predominantly open guard. So that's where I'm most comfortable.
I think that a lot of times you don't see as many guys that play from a closed guard anymore, simply because, I think that sometimes it promotes more in jiu-jitsu, and because it's not very difficult for a competitor on the top to keep someone from full guard from maneuvering if they don't want to. If I just want to hold on your hips, I just follow your hips around. Like, I can do that for a long time. Yeah. And it's difficult for me to in turn open your closed guard to be able to attack. So what tends to happen is a weird little cat and mouse game where I hold your hips and I come up just enough and hope for you to go for something so I can shoot through and open your guard up. Or I'm talking where you're waiting for me to pop up so you can time and stuff like that.
Yeah, full guard ends up being one of the most boring situations, I would say, because like you said, it's not easy to break somebody's full guard open, and it's also really hard to actually break somebody's posture down and get any type of offense going from a full guard. So you see a lot of stalemates in those situations.
Now, it's cool for me in turn to see guys that are old school dudes. Like Lovato was playing closed guard against Cyborg this weekend, and it was pretty cool at the Substars event. And then who's another one that plays a lot of closed guard? Zanze, exactly right. He submitted Rustum. So it's cool to see guys make it work. Exactly. I just feel like, I would like to see people try and bring it back, but I just feel like in today's modern jiu-jitsu, it's not as prevalent to play closed guard. It just takes so much time to really get good at the nuances of it to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. Seeing Zanji go through Rustum like that with the full guard when nobody's really playing full guard, or at least hardly anybody, was really cool.
Yeah, it was really
fun. And it makes you realize, like, oh shit, closed guard works too.
Right.
People haven't been playing it.
100%. 100%. It makes you think to yourself, wow, like these old assholes are fucking they really know what they're talking about. They can really make this shit work. Not to, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now I was supposed to bring this up like a little earlier, but like this will be like one of the things we close on. One of the things that I think people were like critical of during the match that had nothing to do seemingly with anybody in the tag team match of Submission Underground was the referee seemed a bit confused on some things. Like he was really quick to call escapes when it like someone might not have escaped. He like went to wipe Nicky Rodriguez's back and like he reacted to that. Was there like did he seem all there to you or what was going on?
He just, I don't think, was as familiar with that rule set and was calling some of the escapes earlier than they actually happened.
Yeah, but I saw a couple. That was the biggest complaint I saw with a bunch of people, that the guy was just really bad on the escape calls. He was calling them way quick, which makes a huge difference because that could be the difference of 10, 15.
That's EBI points. That's EBI overtime is escaping or submitting, So
yeah.
Did he seem like he was flustered, or did he seem like he just didn't know what the hell he was doing? Or both?
It just seemed like he needed more repetition with that particular rule set, and they needed to discuss the overtimes a little more in depth and what actually constitutes an escape and what is still in control. Because I got Nick and he turned in my body triangle, but then I readjusted and still had the back, and they called it time.
I think that in my experience with big tournaments and along those lines, I think it's very, because I've been to a couple of tournaments like that. This last Substars event was like that. It was like, dude, like, what the fuck's going on? We're gonna have a rules meeting. Like, can someone at least fill me in? I would like, because this guy's saying that and this guy's saying that. All right, cool. I want to have an official person tell me what the rules are going to be for this event, so that I can say when I'm coaching the event, hey, bullshit, you said this, and this. We need to keep it. We need to hold to that. And I think that a lot of times these big tournaments, they kind of like just say, oh, the rules are the rules. Because me as a competitor, sometimes I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the rules. Whatever. Just sure. I don't care. Let's just do what we got to do. I know what I got to do. You do what you got to do. Fucking rules. Who gives a fuck about rules? But when it comes down to it, they needed the big competitions just to have continuity to make sure that everyone's on the same page, so you don't have shit like that, which affects the audience. Go down and say, no, this is the rules. Everyone needs to be aware of it. This is the opportunity for you to ask questions. This is the opportunity for you to be heads up at whatever needs to do. And the refs can then also brush up on it too. They need to have that rules meeting to make sure that there's no bullshit like that goes down.
Yeah, we've got to get clarity as to
we lost you.
You know, everybody's got to be on the same page at the rules meeting. Like,
right.
This is when he escaped. The elbow line, he's out. This is when he's still in control,
right.
etc. And there's no discrepancy.
Right.
We all know what is going on.
All right. It looks like we're starting to lose you a little bit. So I think this is gonna be a little bit of a shorter one. Oh,
there he goes. Yeah. Whatever.
You guys. Oh, yeah, well, no, he'll like we'll shoot the breeze for a second,
cool.
just because
just in case.
I wanted to say, I had like one more for him, but he'll come back and we'll figure it out. Yeah. But it seems like that, and this is brought up a few times in the conversation, is that there's so many different rule sets for jiu-jitsu. There's like IBJJF, there's ADCC, there's at Substars, one of the female competitors did a heel hook in the gi and it was fine. Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah, they do that. I'm like, heel hook. All submissions are legal.
I know, but like, how crazy is that for like an athlete like who could compete anywhere at any time to juggle all those rule sets? Like, imagine a world where Substars is like a lot bigger. You know, it's like where Third Coast Grappling is, or it's where Polaris is, and that's a huge rule set that people like train for. And then you train heel hooks in the gi. Yeah, that seems insane.
Well, I don't mind the lack of continuity between the rules from match to match. I just feel like they need to make sure that everyone is aware of them. I would even go so far as to say, okay, you're competing on this event in 6 weeks. Here is a list of the rules. This is what you will have to be accountable for when you compete. That way, when you're training, you can gear your training to get to that point. Now these guys are never going to do that. They hardly ever even have a fucking rules meeting anymore. They're so good because they get so caught up with all the other bullshit that they forget, hey, wait a minute, we still got to make sure we have a legit competition that goes on. So promoters out there, if you're looking for some advice from someone that's been around these damn things for a little while, make sure you have a very definable rules meeting before every tournament. It's very important.
The thing is, I have to imagine they did that with this, you know, and it's like
you would think so, Kevin, but believe me, it's not always the case.
Wow, and especially with something as confusing as a tag team jiu-jitsu match with EBI overtime.
Or what happens is you have a rules meeting that becomes they make we're gonna do this. What do you think about that? You know what I'm talking? It becomes a Q&A where people leave like, what the fuck is even going on now? I have no idea. You follow what I'm talking about? There should be more like, no, this is what we're doing. And it's because the guys that are putting on the event, they come up with these amazing rule sets, and then they don't think about the chaos that can ensue because their rule sets are subjective sometimes. You follow what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah,
so that subjectivity makes it difficult to define.
The problem that
was good. I had, write that down. That was impressive, wasn't it?
I mean, I'm going to transcribe it. Kevin Gallagher fixing professional jiu-jitsu. My problem is that the athletes were totally fine throughout the event. No one did anything wrong or illegal. It was all on the officiating. Like, it was blatantly bad.
But that's more to the point, because again, now when you have that rule ceremony, the referee is present, because I'll tell you straight up, I ref before too. And sometimes I walk in events, I don't know what specific rules meetings they're having from each little, from one little local event to the next local event. So I stand there, and as they're doing the rule ceremony, I am paying attention too. So I can tell, okay, wait a minute. You have to hold someone down for 3 seconds for a takedown in order for it to be a takedown. Or you can use a body triangle to get 4 points, because depending on the tournament, you have the small little nuanced approaches to that. Then I try to make sure I remember them. You know, so it's for the referee's benefit too, so they can bone up, so they're ready to go.
I mean, I just think if jiu-jitsu is going to get any sort of momentum into, Gordon Ryan just made that big post where he successfully bought his first home. Congrats to him, by the way. That's insane.
Love it.
Huge fans.
Right.
Yeah, like and I think he's great for the sport, and I think he's going to pave the way for a lot of dudes to make that sort of cash off of it. You know, just because there's so many high level guys. There should be more money in it than it is. But I think that a thing that's keeping it from getting any sort of traction is that it's just confusing for the average person. You know, like EBI, like gi, no gi. There's so many. It's like if there were 87 different flavors of football.
Right.
Like that's just it needs to be homogenous. It needs to be singular and clear to understand. You know, like.
Well, I think that we had Avery on, remember, a little while ago. We had your buddy from.
We were talking about. We had our boss and my coach Chris, and we were talking about like combat jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You know,
and then we talking about how jiu-jitsu will break into the next phase, and it was interesting because Avery kind of like opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, like, does it really need to go to the next phase? Like, who cares? It's what we have enough. And I thought to myself, it's like, yeah, it is. But the only problem is what we have is not going to continue to exist unless the guys that are putting on the events figure out a way to make money off of this shit. Because they're throwing out huge prize money, huge purses. And I don't know what promoters are doing or how they're making, but it's not hard to do numbers and add things up and think to myself, wow, if they paid this guy 30,000, they paid that guy 40,000, they paid this guy 5,000, this guy 3,000. Like, you do the numbers and like they got the another $3,000 for the event, and there's only, you know, 400 people here, 150 people here at fucking $40 a ticket. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's not hard to figure out that there's not that much money to go around.
Yeah. No, but I think my problem is that I see, you know, all these really quality events being put on, but, you know, a myriad of problems that come with it. You know, like, for however good a card is on paper in terms of the athletes being there, streams cut out. You know, there could be weird music stuff and like stuff they throw in there because for some reason we need them.
Right.
You know, like I want, like, if you like go to a baseball, like turn on baseball, it'll be baseball. And then a bunch of people, like high level thinkers, talking about baseball, treating it seriously just because this is some high stuff. Right. And I feel like jiu-jitsu is so intricate and fun. It deserves that same level of fame, and that can only happen with like critical success.
Right.
Like,
exactly. So it has to make, you know, critical success
money. It has got to make money. It's got to be,
and in order for it to make money, it has to have somewhat of a crossover element, because you can't just rely on jiu-jitsu nerds. There has to be an event that can, at least you can put in a city that some people will be like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Let's take me and my rich friends and go buy a table for $1,000 and sit mat side and be cool to get hammered and watch some jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm talking about? And this event at in Miami at the Fillmore seemed to kind of pick that bill. That's the sumo thing. When in the arena, it played pretty well. It went a little bit too long, but it played pretty well in the arena. It's just fucking like, they got to do a better job. They didn't market anything. It was horrible. Not too many people.
It was the infrastructure behind it. Like, this is like the magic is there. We've seen jiu-jitsu enrapture people in the UFC and MMA. Like, people, it's a spectacular thing when the right machinery is put behind it. Right. And I wish that it was enough that like all the people that, I think in some ways it's beautiful that the people that do the sport are primarily the ones that keep it going. Something like 90%, maybe 99% of people that watch these events are also people that train. I think that that's beautiful, and I wish that was enough, but it's not.
Right.
You know, because like that's not going to fill stadiums. That's not what's going to get 80 cc out of that stupid hotel. Right. You know, and into a real venue.
I think the big thing everybody's wanting now that ESPN is bought by freaking or the UFC
Disney
UFC bought by ESPN ESPN bought the UFC.
Yeah.
Right. It's figuring out a way to get maybe like, you know, a Kasai on like that late night ESPN 3 freaking block, because then you start getting real marketing dollars and real advertising dollars and shit like that.
I'm gonna it's not even the streaming could be the future. I think like it's perfectly fine to exist solely on. I don't watch TV anymore. I'll tell you. Like,
I think you're gonna start to see that. I think you're gonna start to see, because it seems to me that that's the trend, because this Substars was a pay-per-view. It was like a $10 pay-per-view. The next BJJ Fanatics with Gordon Ryan and the wrestler kid, who's I'm fried today, I can't remember his name, is going to be a $29 pay-per-view event. I think they're trying to push to that to generate funds, to figure out ways to help pay the bills to keep these cards as stacked and entertaining as they are.
All right. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm getting tired anyway, man.
No. I just got a confirmation from Kyle. He dipped out. His phone lost connection, and he can't.
No big deal, bro.
Can't figure it out. But yeah, no, I said, told him thanks for coming on. A really fun guy to talk to.
Yeah, he was cool, man. He was cool. That was good time. It just goes to show you, funny. It goes to show you, like, how.
Thank you for having me. He says thanks for having me. So,
it goes to show you how guys on Instagram or on Facebook look like big tough assholes, but when you start talking to them, it's all fucking shit.
They're all nice guys.
These dudes are just trying to get paid, man. They're just trying to jump on that WWE bandwagon and stir the pot.
He's 6'4". That doesn't mean anything to you because you're a big tough dude. But I'm like,
dude, bro,
yeah, I know. But he looks like he looks like he can take flight with his lats.
Like an action figure.
Like he's supposed to have wings and beat
like
them.
He's
that's like
Tyrannosaurus or something like that, or not a Tyrannosaurus, pterodactyl.
It's great that that's it. Like pterodactyl, that was it. That's the perfect one.
So he looks like a pterodactyl.
Even his face, he looks like a giant vulture that just looks too big to fly and yet flies. Man, I'm glad that he's not here because it'd be weird.
Kyle, if you're listening, you need to put together the Kyle Boehm pterodactyl rash guard, and that's going to be your thing, man. You'll sell a million.
Or BJJ Fanatics. I know Gordon's got the only get swole for BJJ video, but if you put out a video, I'm pretty sure it would get some traction on there. It's just you just gotta work back, and that's it. Then everything else will just sort of figure itself out.
Let's call it a day, homie. I'm gonna go watch TV for a little bit. I gotta go to work at 6, and I'm gonna sit on my butt and pet my dogs for a little while. They hate me. I'm gonna go give my dogs a walk and then look at all the food that I gotta wait until after Sunday to eat. So. Well, good luck, man. We'll talk about your tournament this next time. We'll have next week. I'll have my coach Chris on, and he'll just talk. You and him will talk about all the stuff I did wrong. We'll play it in the bottom. We'll give you a breakdown of your match.
Kevin Bradley, highest rated podcast ever. Everyone wants to hear it. All right, everybody. This has been another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I've been your host, Kevin Bradley, as always, joined by Kevin Gallagher, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Have a good one, man.